What's going on, guys? So I wanted to talk about two different subjects when it comes to narcissistic behavior, and this can kind of throw people off. So the first one is that a lot of people believe that because narcissists lack empathy that they don't have any emotion at all. That's not true. I believe narcissism has a range just like autism does, where it can be very minuscule in their behavioral the way that they behave, or it can be very overt and obvious. So lacking empathy does not mean they don't have an emotional range. It doesn't mean that they don't have any emotions at all. And a lot of people confuse this, and they still look at this person like, oh, but they're so good with kids, or oh my God, they're so sweet to old people, or oh, they rescue dogs. That doesn't mean that that person can't be a narcissist, okay? Sometimes a part of that is their cover, and sometimes, like I said, there's a spectrum. So they could be very caring in other areas, or it could be just to help with the way that their mask looks to society. Maybe they do donate money to, dog shelters. Maybe that is really genuine, but that doesn't mean that they won't come home and beat your ass. That doesn't mean that they won't curse or, neglect their kids. So this behavior is why a lot of people stay in narcissistic relationships too long, because they've seen what they believe is the potential for this person to be a good person, but those nuances that they have when it comes to lacking empathy still go on. And that is a facade of a narcissist, is that they will present themselves as a great, amazing person to other people outside of the people they should really care about, or they will get into certain relationships with certain people and act like a monster. This is why you can be married to a narcissist and you can tell the parent about it and they'll never believe you. This is why serial killers, if you watch the Ted Bundy stories, you can take a videotape of a serial killer to the parent, and the parent's like, not my baby. Because their baby probably was a great kid to them, but they're still out here slitting throats and acting crazy. So, but that facade that they presented was always to their family, to take care of their family, to be loving and caring. So you're not going to get, and they have to put a facade up to some body of people, right? So they can be in church and the church thinks that they're amazing, but they go home and they are acting a fool. Maybe their immediate family thinks they are the best parent, dad, husband, spouse in the world, but they're going out and again being a fucking serial killer. So it doesn't take away from them putting up that facade to someone, because somebody has to believe they're amazing, right? Because it has to be you who's crazy when you start to complain about their behavior. So that's one side of it. The other side is why it's important not to internalize their behavior. Now, this doesn't mean you should get used to it or you should accept toxic behavior from anyone. But there was a episode of Empire where Lucius ripped off the tablecloth off the table and all the food fell on the floor and the whole family was there eating. And Cookie just kept eating like, well, my plate didn't fall. This is when someone has been adjusted to narcissistic behavior and they are used to it and they just go about functioning within that relationship. But truthfully, a narcissistic person is not someone you want to be in a relationship with. Training yourself to get used to the behavior can be also toxic, not to just you, but to your children watching, that this is how normal people act. Ripping dinner off of the table is normal. And so you run the risk of your kids learning that that's what love is, and then bringing home the same type of abusive person that you absolutely hate because they treat your child shitty, but your child grew up seeing this behavior between the two of you. So people can get used to narcissistic behavior and accept it and live with it. And unfortunately, that's on them. I can only tell you guys, toxic behavior is not healthy. And your kids are watching. So, maybe some people stay in it for the lifestyle, but that's on y'all. And I can say too, because I grew up with a narcissist, my father, I attracted narcissistic men. And I did my 3 months of therapy to find out why I was attracting narcissistic men. And Here I am teaching you guys how to avoid it like I learned. You shouldn't internalize their behavior because it's not about you. It's nothing that you could do, would do, or should do to change. And that's a lot of the hoops that they put people through is you need to do this and then maybe I'll open up more. You need to stop doing this and then maybe I'll do X, Y, Z. Not enough is a message that they like to give you, but it doesn't really matter what you do or how you change. It's on them. So to be clear, don't internalize what they do. And the reason that I say this is a personality disorder, which means it is a brain functionality issue. And so what I tell people is, or they'll say like, why don't you get mad? Or, blah, blah, blah. I used to, but then I realized this ain't got nothing to do with me. This is all your crazy ass. If you were dealing with someone who had dementia and you were taking care of Miss Johnson, you were her nurse, and Miss Johnson, opened the door, hey, baby, it's nice to see you again. And you're like, Miss Johnson, are you hungry? Miss Johnson, yes, baby, I'm hungry. You go in the kitchen and you're cooking and you come out, you bring her a tray of food and she tosses it in the air, hits you with her cane. Oh my God, who are you? Get out my house. You're in my kitchen. You're trying to help. And you're like, yeah, okay. Would you be upset that Miss Johnson did this? And the answer should be no, because Miss Johnson has dementia, right? You know that this is a mental issue that has nothing to do with you or anything that you did. And so that's why I say do not internalize a narcissistic behavior. The messaging will be, you're not enough. It's all your fault. You need to do X, Y, and Z better, and then maybe I'll get better. A healthy emotional person is going to want to do better just for themselves, period, before they even deal with anybody else. All this, we get together and we become better people. Yeah. But you need to work on being a better person before you even get with anybody. But don't internalize don't internalize their behavior towards you. Even if it's the way you grew up with them, the way they treated you in relationships, some narcissists that you've dated or married, friends, maybe it was an uncle or aunt. The way they treated you had nothing to do with you. And it is a mental and personality disorder, so I'm not going to say they can't help it. But unfortunately, that means they had some trauma in their lives, which turned their brain off. If you ever watch like Vampire Diaries, where they turn off their humanity so that they could be monsters. Narcissists are very much like vampires. And so that's usually what happens. There was a trauma in their life repeatedly or, over some years, or different traumas built up. And they just kind of clicked off and was like, you know what? I'm just, fuck it. Whoever I need to hurt to maintain my peace, or hurt people type of thing. That's what they did. And so that's why you're dealing with the monster you're dealing with. And hopefully you have an opportunity not to deal with them and you can dismiss them from your life. I cut off 2 toxic family members. I have changed my phone number to get away from toxic exes. And narcissists do not let you go. So you'll get an ex, you'll get a phone call from that ex, or they'll show up, or they'll, it's kind of like there's no, you're coming back. They have the problem, and you have to decide to make sure that you're not adding to the problem by allowing them to return. And some are diligent. I worked at a restaurant. They would show up at my job, or they would, make another account or call me from a different phone number, or, email you, right? They will find a way to find you because you are not going to just leave them alone. They're too fucking amazing in their own mind for you to just leave them alone. So, if you can run away, run away. If you can get away from them, get away from them. If you have to deal with them, I would say the best advice for anybody who has to deal with them, if it's a parent, maybe you just call and say, how you doing, and hang up the phone. If it's a spouse or a parent of your child, best case scenario, I would say, as you deal with them, just don't internalize their behavior. Don't take anything that they say in. You'll hear phrases like, I don't want to open up to you because XYZ, or I got all this stress going on, you're stressing me out, or you're the reason why, or look what you made me do, or if it wasn't for you, then I wouldn't. A lot of it is no accountability, and they are never going to be holding themselves accountable for anything. And you will be the problem if you bring anything to them about them being accountable or about something that they've done. So understand you're never going to get those things out of them. So don't internalize their behavior, and don't ever let them make you feel like you're not enough.